Question, actually, imaginary question. You know how a lot of these YouTubers, they go live and they have always questions and they're always, I don't get any questions, okay? Mainly I just get negative comments. But anyway, I'm making up an imaginary question for my audience. Question, do I recommend that a novice take comedy class? Do I recommend someone going to comedy classes? Can you teach comedy? And my answer to that question is, back in the day, yes, I would have recommended taking a comedy class to get started before the internet, before all of the free and discounted resources available on the internet. I would have recommended just taking one class, not so much to learn comedy, but to learn aspects of the business. Now, today, you don't need to take a comedy class because you could just look up anything on YouTube, just watch a whole bunch of, and you can self-educate yourself. But like I mentioned, I first started doing comedy in 2006. I first got the idea of being a comedian in 2005 when I actually inadvertently stumbled upon a comedy class on the website to a comedy club. A friend had sent me an email, saying, hey, Steve, if you want to see a free comedy show, I get, free tickets. You should sign up, subscribe, and they'll send you free offers. And I'm just browsing through the website, and there was a little caption, have you ever dreamed about being? And I'm like, wow, I never thought about becoming a comedian. I never even knew how you're supposed to become a comedian. I never thought about it. Oh, wow, I could take a class and I'll become a comedian. So I took the class, and it was educational. I didn't learn how to become a comedian. I learned more about the business. I learned about open mics. I learned that bars look to fill places that sell drinks. Comedy clubs are bars. I learned about having to travel, having to go places for a gig. I learned about using your adrenaline and your anxiety, about the business and stuff like that. And I also noticed there was a lot of chummying up and ass kissing that these teachers, who taught comedy, were basically comedians themselves. So for whatever reason, never made it big themselves. And so they got in cahoots with the comedy club owners so they can use a room in the comedy club to teach these classes, which, when I was taking, they were 200. Now they're probably 500 or more. And of course, the comedy club gets a cut of that because, you're using their space. And of course, the teacher gets a cut of it. And then the reward for the student is they get to be in a graduation show which is the only goddamn show they're going to get to be in a comedy club unless they bring people later. You understand? But these comics who teach these classes, like I said, they never really made it, but quite often they get to perform in the comedy clubs because they are what you call house comics. A house comic who is just someone who's in good with the comedy. They're not the greatest comics in the world. No one on the other side of the USA has ever heard of these comics. They're local comics, but they're part of the clique. They're part of the political connection. They're part of the good old boy and girls network in these comedy clubs. So they get to be a house comic and whatever, fill in when they don't have on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night. But that's what they are. They're house comics. But a lot of these students in the class, they curry up and they piggyback on the teachers. They go out to dinner with them. They become friends. And sometimes these teachers will put them in some of their shows. Just like when you do the graduation show at the comedy graduate from the comedy class, the teacher invites some of their friends to come, comedian friends, to come perform, and they didn't have to pay a dime, whereas you had to pay $500 to take the class to perform in this show and, get your videotape. I'm just explaining to how the business, it's good how the business works, but the way the internet is today. You don't have to waste your time and your money hanging around these places getting used and learning like that. You can just learn just by putting yourself out there on the internet and watching tutorials and, just getting good and making a name for yourself. And then when they finally call you, maybe they want to pay you some money, these places, rather than just take your money and give you false promises. Hey, I'm giving you a free education right here. I hope that you learned something from this. Thank you.